UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
Los Angeles, what's going on? Welcome back to the Believe in LA Football podcast here on the Believe Network, LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for Los Angeles football. Have a special episode for you today. I'm Ryan Dyrud, co-host, as always, joined by Frostee Rucker the Rams are playing your former team. So this is going to be a fun one. What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's always a good time to talk about my former team. Still have some buddies over there, relationships in and out of the building. And, covering the Rams, it just, it helps me with the NFC West, because I was there for 5 years, in that division and played a lot of football in there, a lot of good games. And this is going to be an exciting episode. Yeah,
it'll be a fun quick little episode. We have Darren Urban on, who is the team reporter for the Arizona Cardinals. Been with the team for, 20 years, Frostee?
Yeah, something like that. Great guy.
Long time, good guy. So we'll do a full preview show for all four of our LA teams later in the week, but we wanted to get this out because it was just a fun conversation for a guy that had great insight, and this is going to be a great matchup. We talk, obviously, extensively about it, but I think it's interesting that last episode we talked about how Kyle Shanahan and the Niners kind of have the Rams number, and conversely, Sean McVay and the Rams kind of have the Cardinals number since McVay's joined there. So it's been a good swing for them, but the Cardinals are a much better team now. So I think this is going to be a very, very not only fun and exciting game with two offensive powerhouses, but an extremely important game for both these teams.
Yeah, like you said, extremely important. I think both defenses have been the strength of both teams this year, with the offenses both showing flashes of greatness, great playmaking ability, but they have struggled out as of late. Mm-hmm. So the defense has got to bring their hard hats for this game, and this should be a great playoff indicator.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the Cardinals, who offense, I think, came out of the gates all guns blazing these last 4 weeks. I think they've lost 3 of the last 4. The offense has really taken a step back, and the Rams defense is continuing to step forward. So it'll be an amazing matchup to watch. But yeah, let's just get into it, man. So Darren Urban, team reporter for the Arizona Cardinals. Here's our conversation. I'm liking that Madden figurine behind you.
I have some trinkets from over the last 20 years or so.
Love it. Yeah.
Is it Larry?
It's Larry. Of course it's Larry.
Yeah.
Although I do have some other ones around. I've been around long enough. I've got Anquan somewhere around here, and I've got Carson, but I probably have 2 or 3 Larrys. They've made a few of him.
Yeah. Not a bad player.
No.
I think my favorite Cardinal of all time, though, is still Rod Tidwell.
Still one of my favorite. On April Fool's Day 3-4 years ago, I wrote a Where is Rod Tidwell story now. It's still on the site somewhere. I enjoyed doing that. That was fun.
I love it. Yeah. I love that they feature
the last clips I've seen of him, he's at bars getting in trouble. or going by his alias name.
That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Getting into some stuff. So how you been, D? What's going on, man?
Just trying to get through this season. It's been interesting all the way around. I've been super fortunate that I'm one of the people that have been able to go into the building that isn't directly football related. And sounds like it might be coming to an end for this month because they've put in even heavier protocols. It's funny, Frostee, the Cardinals have not played a game of any sort that I have not attended since they went to Green Bay to end the 1999 season on Y2K. I've been at every single Cardinal game since then, and I think it looks like I'm going to miss the Giants road trip in 2 weeks because I'm going to get pulled off the traveling party. So that's a little bit of a bummer to me.
So are you one of the people that get tested every day?
Yeah, I do get tested every day. I've been going up until this past week. I've been going into the office at least for parts of the day. I've been traveling, but they just obviously with everything going on, the groups keep shrinking and shrinking things, and the league is just so they just want to get through this next couple of months, and they're trying everything they can possibly do. And, we'll see what happens. I mean, you see what's happened with the Ravens. I mean,
we got to be, hats off for it even getting this far.
Yeah.
Because this is something that no one could perceive it would even happen. I thought it was going to shut down after a week or two, because you never know once you broke training camp how guys were, how many guys were going to be exposed to a massage therapist or going to the grocery store and whatnot, because you can't contain them. So I didn't know how this was going to fare, especially the younger guys that aren't as mature and doesn't have families. So I'm glad it's gotten this far. I'm, unfortunate that, you can't go into work. How much access did you have around the guys?
It wasn't tremendous. I mean, I was still the way the buildings are set up. So they have 3 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is basically players and coaches, couple trainers. Tier 2, which is what I fell in, which is you can have. You're supposed to have passing contact. And again, as the weeks have gone by, they've tried to become more and more careful as we've gone, in terms of, we were always supposed to keep the distance. We're always supposed to wear masks. So there was always that. But I wasn't, all the interviews have been done via Zoom. I think I did one brief interview with a down the roster player in training camp, where I tried to stay 6 feet away and kind of yelled questions at him, because he wasn't going to be going and talking to all the media members. But for the most part, it's been all Zoom. It's been, for me, it's a massive change for what I do. I love, being able to go up and talk to a guy and maybe not do it on the record and just kind of have a conversation. You can't do that. But, obviously, with everything going on in the world and knowing how many people don't have jobs, Michael Bidwell has been great for his employees. And I'm not just talking about the football team. I mean, no one's gotten laid off, and there are teams that have gotten rid of some employees here and there because of the situation. Nothing like that has happened. We've all have our jobs, and I just feel fortunate I'm able to continue to do what I love to do, whatever the circumstances might be.
Absolutely. I left the Cardinals, and I didn't have one bad thing to say about anyone in that building, and that was from top to bottom. And I'm pretty sure that has to do with Mr. Bidwell coming down with the COVID, that he understands how serious it is, and he's always had compassion for stuff. And that's unique coming from a former prosecutor, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I will say that I agree with you. I think Michael getting sick in the summer really, I think it mattered to him before then. Obviously, that was before teams started getting back together, but he was at the forefront. I know on training camp, he saw a couple things with a couple coaches, a couple players that, he made sure that everybody understood, like, this is serious stuff. And Michael, and he's told the story publicly, there was a couple of days there when he was in the hospital that he was concerned about if he was going to make it. And so he's taken this very seriously. It's been important all around our building. And I think that has trickled down, obviously, when it comes from the owner.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Safety matters.
So I don't even know if you know this, but I'd just be curious that with what happened with the Broncos last week with, the quarterback situation, have the Cardinals now taken a quarterback and had him just as a quarantine quarterback if instances were to happen like that?
I don't think they have yet, Ryan. I don't know if that changes. It's funny, the way the week usually goes, Monday the coach talks, Tuesday we get a couple players, Wednesday is when Kyler will talk again and Cliff will talk again. And that's obviously going to be on the table with what has happened with the Broncos, with what has happened with the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson going to miss this game, assuming it happens. And look, that was a question right before these teams even came back together was, are you going to quarantine a quarterback just in case? And it was funny. It felt like a few teams said, yeah, we're going to do it. And from what I can tell, there's only one team that's really done it, and it's Buffalo with Jake Fromm, who they kept him separate all year. Cliff's been asked a couple times about it, and he said, yeah, we've thought about it, but we haven't done it. I don't know if things change now. I know if I was a team, I'd seriously consider it, or consider, which the Cardinals don't have. They have 3 quarterbacks in the active roster. They don't have one on the practice squad. Maybe you put one on the practice squad as a 4th option. But, I don't know if the Broncos would have beat the Saints anyways, but I think that is a position. What's funny about it is the Cardinals and most teams have kept a kicker on the practice squad all season because they know that position is so important. And if the guy got sick the day before the game, what are you going to do? You're willing to do it for a kicker who's not quarantined, but you have that extra guy. Wouldn't you really want to make sure you have a quarterback? But, I think for everything that's gone on this year, I think it's been such a week-to-week thing. And being on the inside of it, teams have done the best they can. Our head athletic trainer, Tom Reed, has done an unbelievable job trying to get everything that he normally does with his job and do all these protocols. But again, week to week, protocols change all the time. Rules are changing at the top league level all the time. Teams now do this. And it's just you're just trying to get through the season, I think, at this point.
Yeah, the strategy in the war room has to be something, or it can't even be a room, the war Zoom.
War Zoom.
War Zoom, there you
go. The war Zoom has to be just unreal, Like you said, the protocols keep changing. The state's laws keep changing, cities. There's always things to adapt to, and that just makes it more enticing for this football season. And it's been a good one, though. Despite all this stuff, the guys, especially on your team, have played really well. They haven't gotten the win column the last couple of weeks, but, they have fared well with, the no mini camp, no OTAs, a brief training camp, which I'm sure that was, unique. So
yeah,
this is just been the COVID season has been something else, and guys have played through it though. So I'm glad to see that the PA and the league came to agreement on how to go forward.
I would agree with that. I mean, I can't say enough of not only the players on the Cardinals, who I obviously interact a lot with, but just the players across the league. This is a game where, and Frostee, you take a risk with your physical and mental well-being in a normal season, and now you throw this on top of it. It's been super impressive. I know there's a lot of thoughts out there, one way or the other, about whether sports should be being played, all these things. But I know that I feel fortunate that my job has been able to go on because these guys are willing to play football. And I do think there is a level of entertainment that and normalcy that you can bring to the country by having football out there. I mean, so many people are trying to find something to hang on to, and these players have been able to do it. So, again, it's been a fun season in a lot of ways. I know the Cardinals wish they were playing a little bit better right now, and they probably should be playing a little bit better in some of those areas when you start talking about the football part of it. But when you just talk about pulling this thing off in the first place, it's really been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darren, I swear I'm not trying to keep putting you on the spot. So last one
it's all right.
In that regard, but it relates. So I'm just curious if you know any more info on it. But, obviously just 2 days ago announced that the Niners can no longer play in Santa Clara. And so they're going to play in Glendale with Arizona's facility. Do you know kind of what went into that decision, or what now that changes for you guys? Because I'm sure obviously maybe that changes your protocols, even being in the facility when they're there, or what?
See, I'll be honest. I don't know the details over where they're going to practice. So our facility that we practice in is in Tempe. The stadium's in Glendale. I know the games are in Glendale. I don't know exactly what the 49ers are doing in terms of practice. I would doubt, given how strict all the protocols are in general, that they would be able to practice at our facility. You'd have too much cross-contamination in that regard. It's a little easier to do it on a game, a one-off game basis where they could come in and clean up the stadium. There's only one situation where the Cardinals have a home game the same weekend as the 49ers have a home game, and that's this weekend. Cardinals play Sunday, 49ers play Monday night. So I would assume in theory, Cardinals play Sunday, they come in and clean the whole place out and do the COVID clean out, and then you can be able to bring those teams in Monday night. And then all the other games, if the 49ers have a home game, the Cardinals are on the road and vice versa. So except for that 1 week where the Cardinals actually play the 49ers in the one home game they were supposed to have. So I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to play out. I do know that, we were mentioning Michael Bidwell earlier. Michael Bidwell, it's always been important to him to be a team player when it comes to the league. And I think it was important to him once he found out the 49ers might need someplace else to go. He's one of those guys that he's the first to say, if you guys want to come here, we can try and make that work. My first season, I've covered the Cardinals since 2000, but my first season actually working for the team, 2007, there were wildfires in San Diego and the Chargers couldn't practice. They ultimately were able to play their game that Sunday, but during the week they had no place to practice because of the ash in the air. And so he invited them over to the facility, and literally the Cardinals would practice at like 11 in the morning, and then the Chargers would practice at our facility at like 3 in the afternoon to make sure that they were able to do it that week. That's the kind of feel that he gives for that. So it does not surprise me that the Cardinals reached out and offered the stadium up, especially when it lined up so well with the two schedules. So I think that's where it goes. I don't know where they're going to practice, but that's, there's not a whole lot of love lost for the 49ers when it comes to the Cardinals side, but I can't imagine going through all this and now being told you've got to spend a month away from your families going into Christmas and trying to do it. And that team, Kyle Shanahan's a hell of a coach, and keeping that team together with everything they've been through this year has been amazing. And now they got to deal with this. It's really a testament to what he's been able to do too.
Yeah, that's very true. Because injuries have been bitten him. That whole roster that, on paper looked like they were going to be going right back to the Super Bowl. But a lot of people out there would say I'm not necessarily on that bandwagon to say that. But but on paper they looked good. Defense was stout, lost a couple players, but then now the injuries have hit them. They've been able to battle through. So that's a testament to the coach and the willpower of the players in that locker room. Darren, I want to talk to you about your team, or our team. Can I say our team? Can I still be part of it?
I'm working that. I always think of you as –
because Ryan's a Bronco fan. Ryan's a Bronco fan, so –
I don't know how Rams fans listening to this are going to feel about me being a Bronco fan and you calling the Cardinals your team, but,
Well, I'm just part of it. I'm still going to, break this down the way I have to. But, our team. Let's talk about this. So the Rams offense has sputtered a little bit. Cardinals defense has gotten drastically better from last year, and drastically it's an understatement from dead last to right now. What are they, 13 in the league right now?
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
How do you foresee this battle playing out Sunday?
Well, that's a great question. I know the Rams struggled a little bit these past couple games offensively, and especially against 49ers, but the Cardinals, you talk about an offense struggling. The Cardinals are really, they're still high in the league in terms of yardage. I think they're still number 2 in the league in total offense, which is yardage. But they scored 21 points 2 games ago against Seattle, which we all know is they've improved their defense a little bit, getting Jamal Adams back and trading for Dunlap, but they're not a great defense. And the Patriots have a middling defense, and they could only score 17 this past weekend. Something's missing offensively. I don't know if it's because Kyler Murray hurt his shoulder early in the Seattle game, and now they're a little bit more leery about running him. I don't know if it's because those two defenses said, we're just not going to let Kyler Murray beat us with his legs and let's see what happens. And that's short-circuited stuff. But clearly some things have happened there. Defensively, the Cardinals are much better, and that's with losing Chandler Jones for the season because of the injury. They've had some guys go down that, they can't really afford, but they've figured out ways to fill in. They've traded back for Marcus Golden, which I think was huge. Hassan Reddick is playing. I know no one's going to sit here and say Hassan is Chandler Jones, but he's found himself a little bit, which I'm happy for because there's not a better guy than Hassan Reddick. And so they've been able to do some things, but I've always said all year, Frostee, that this team was going to go as far as its offense took it. They needed to have an average defense coming off last year. And last year against the Rams, the home game against the Rams was a disaster. Jared Goff had over 400 yards passing with still 8 minutes left in the third quarter, and they couldn't cover anything. Now, they did a little bit better job in the finale in LA, but they still really couldn't stop them. And that's going to be a huge test. I don't care how much Jared Goff and the Rams offense might have struggled lately. You know, Sean McVay has got the Cardinals number since he became coach of the Rams, and they've got to figure out a way to slow it a little bit. And if this offense doesn't figure out what to do, you know, that's going to be a problem. And I think right now people are going to say the Rams are the better team no matter what has happened for the Rams a couple last weeks. So I think the Cardinals have something to prove. Now, this season they seem to find themselves when they're put in that situation, unfortunately. But we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be completely a battle of the defenses at the end of the day. I think the defenses both have to step up, and it may come down to some good field goal kicks.
Which is the way it's going for the Cardinals, not a good thing.
Not good either, right? So it has the making of a great game just because it's a conference rival and it's a huge playoff indicator for both spectrums of, you know, both teams. But the defenses have to come to play. And I did want to, you know, give a shout out for Coach Buckner coming back and helping with game planning. And, you know, me and Ryan were talking earlier that Vance Joseph looked like he was on his way out last year. If you left it up to the fans and every person outside that building, you know, it was all his fault, you know, and I thought it was a great move, another smart move by Mr. Bidwell and Steve to bring in Buck back to help game plan, help give some of these players ease with, you know, someone that they're familiar with.
Yeah, I think the hiring of Buck was awesome. And I know for Buck it was great because he got to come home and see his kid play his senior year. And his kid's a great player who's going to Oregon. But, you know, I know you love Buck, Frostee. I saw the relationship you guys had. I love Buck. I do think it's made a big difference on the defense. And in a lot of ways, thank goodness he's there. I mean, the Cardinals have been crushed with injuries on the defensive line. And having a guy like that trying to piece it together, I think helps as well. But again, like you said, I think the defense has gotten much better. They did help in personnel. You know, it didn't go well for Vance last year. And I'm sure if you asked Vance, he would do things different last year. But I also know that the defense they were supposed to have going into training camp or going into the offseason was not what he played with during the year. Patrick Peterson got suspended. Robert Alford missed the entire year. They had a defensive lineman got cut in training camp because he had off-the-field issues. I mean, they just did not have the people that he was expecting to have. Terrell Suggs wasn't the player they were hoping he was going to be. So I think that was part of it. And they've had some losses this year, but it is a much better unit. And it's what they needed. If you thought of what they were going to do offensively or what you thought they could do offensively, again, they didn't need to go from 32 to 1. They just needed to go to 32 to 13 or 14, and you were in great shape. But the offense has got to hold up its end of the bargain, and it's not doing that right now.
Yeah, for me, the offense seems like there's just no rhyme or reason to what's going on, you know, and I don't know if they're, you know, you're obviously closer to me. I don't know if they're holding Kyler back because of the shoulder injury, or half the time he's running just because off instinct and, you know, extending plays and just making things do what it do. I know they do have some quarterback draws, you know, that happened in the course of the game. I didn't see that this last week, and he didn't even really get off a good run into the second half. So, you know, this is something that, you know, I've been watching very closely and seeing the growth of that offense and what it could do. Do you still consider this offense, quote unquote, the air raid?
I guess it would depend on how you want to define it, Frostee. I mean, for me, I think Cliff, you still see elements of it for sure. But I think Cliff came into the year last year thinking he could do that. And when they had their most success last year, it wasn't. It was using more tight ends and running the ball more once they got Kenyon Drake and then going off of that. And then they came into this year, and I think he tried to move it a little bit back towards air raid a little bit and then realized, no, it's got to be this other thing. I think I personally don't think the full air raid can work on this level. And it's not just the Cardinals. It's funny. With the mini bye and our bye week and having some chances to watch some other games over the last month, I know a lot of fans for the Cardinals get really upset with the number of wide receiver screens, let's say you see, which is very air raid-esque. Mm-hmm. But if you watch some other games, all these teams do it. And all these teams do it in situations where you're like, sometimes you scratch your head on it a little bit. And I wonder about it sometimes. I'm like, you're not playing against defenders where half of them are going to be accountants after they graduate. You're playing against guys that are pros, and they're just too fast. And I just think sometimes that gets lost in translation a little bit. And I do think there's still a learning curve for Cliff Kingsbury and for Kyler Murray. I mean, he is only in his second year, and I think there's still some things both those guys are learning. And I think you see that sometimes in this offense.
Darren, I always say, find yourself someone that loves you as much as Sean McVay loves the screen. So the Rams run plenty of screens as well. A lot of teams do. I'm curious, though, if he had any knocks coming into the draft, Kyler Murray, it was just really his size, right? That was the one thing that was like his one deficiency. And we've seen a little bit this year that come in to hurt him, like with the, tip passes that have resulted in interceptions. Rams have probably, in my opinion, the best defensive line in football, if not, top three, with Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, Sebastian Joseph Day. Guys that are able to get their hands on the football, not only get after the quarterback, but they like cause havoc tipping balls. How do you think Kingsbury and Murray will scheme things up to avoid that? Because I don't think if the Cardinals want a chance to win this game, having him just sit in the pocket and try to throw against this secondary with this front four, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So how do they get him outside to alleviate his size, I guess?
I think that's a great question, Ryan. It's funny. When Kyler was healthy last year and they played the first time, and he could do whatever he needed to do to get outside or whatever, that's the Ram. He couldn't do anything against the Rams. He actually had some success in the finale in the pocket when he had hurt his hamstring and he wasn't even sure he was going to play, and he had to sit in the pocket and he didn't even run all day, and the Rams knew he wasn't going to run, and he was able to do some things. I'm hoping the Cardinals learn some things off that finale based on that. But I agree with you. It's kind of been a talking point right now about Kyler and his running and what he has to do and how it goes. Kyler got a little he bristled a little bit after the Patriots game when that question keeps coming up about zone reads, because teams are playing him to keep the ball, and he's got to hand it off, and he knows he's got to hand it off. And that's one thing. And then getting outside the pocket on the passing, how do you want to do these things? And can you get outside the pocket and have it be a pass that's not necessarily just 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage? Can it be something that can inflict some damage? That's a great question. I mean, one of the things that I am surprised about with the Rams this year is we knew they had a great defensive line, and we knew they had the best cornerback in the league in Jalen Ramsey. Mm-hmm. But I think the rest of their secondaries played better than a lot of people thought it was going to. And how do you attack that going forward? And again, I don't know if the Cardinals are hitting this defense at the best time when they've struggled against lesser defenses, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks. So I don't know how they're going to address that or how they're going to approach it. I think that's a great question. I think they're trying to figure out a lot of stuff right now. I agree. I don't think you really want to be sitting right there in the pocket. And I think Kyler Murray has to be in one of those places where I think you're going to need some of those special Kyler Murray moments. And it's not just the zone read, and it's not just a design rollout or RPO or whatever it might be. I think to win this game, there's going to have to be a couple times when Kyler Murray does a Kyler Murray thing, or as NFC West people know, a Russell Wilson thing, where you think you've got him dead to rights, and all of a sudden he's spinning out of there and making a play either with a run or a throw down the field on the run where, the defense really didn't do anything wrong. A guy was just making a special play. I think the Cardinals are going to need a couple of those.
Yeah, he's going to have to play like magic like he does. And the best thing about it is that it's in him to do it. You know, and it's not a wishful thinking or on the Christmas list, can Kyler make a play? He can make a play. And that's something that I've grown to love about this kid. Obviously, he's a little banged up, but hopefully he's having enough time to heal, rest. He's taking some time off of practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were smart with him last week. I mean, obviously we haven't really got into it this week, and guys have been away from the facility so far. But I don't honestly, watching him play, and even after he got hurt against Seattle, it's not like he missed any plays. If anything, it'd be protected. I would think he's going to be in good shape. Now, you got to make sure Aaron Donald doesn't cream him in the first 3 plays, which is always a concern. But I think he's going to be okay. And as he said the other day, look, I'm not going out there if I can't be me, and so I do think he's going to have that ability. Now, you got to make it translate, and there's other factors involved in just his health right now. But I think the Cardinals, from that standpoint, are in good shape.
Yeah, and hopefully Larry's back, and that will actually, give a boost of confidence in that offense. Again, I think it's going to be a good one. Darren, thanks for coming on with us.
I really appreciate you guys having me, Frostee. It was great to hear from you. It's great to see you, and I hope we can do it some other time.
Well, we have the last week of the season, so.
Sounds good.
That's right. Darren, appreciate you, man. It's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, Frost. That was a great conversation, fun interview. Thanks for setting that up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, thanks for Darren to, spend some time with us. He's very insightful. One of those guys in the media department at the Cardinals that never stepped on your toes, always respectful, gave you your space. And when guys are respectful of your privacy and your space, you don't have a problem opening up to them. And that's the relationship I have with him. And so I knew when I reached out, he would return a favor.
Yeah, man. It's cool doing all these interviews because, it's been so much fun doing it with you and meeting all these people. But you can tell, even though we're just on Zoom virtually, but you can kind of tell the guys that are just, not saying they're bad people, but are just doing the interview. They're giving you information. They're kind of, taking some time, so they're nice in that regard. But then you can tell, like, the genuinely, like, good human beings. They really are not only happy to be on with us, but are, like, enjoying their time talking to us. And I think Darren was one of those guys. So it was really cool to meet him. And hopefully everyone listening enjoyed it and got some insight of the other side, who the Rams have to play.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks again, Darren, for joining us. That's a guy that's passionate about his job, passionate about the Cardinals, and he loves to see these matchups. And, I feel for these guys not being able to be in the game and, like he discussed, not, potentially being able to travel and stuff. So this COVID has gotten in the way of a lot of people's stuff, but we got to keep pressing forward. So thanks again, Darren, for coming on.
Yep. Stay positive. Keep grinding, keep pressing forward. Like I said, we will have a full preview of all the other 3 games, plus a little more content for this Rams-Cardinal games later in the week. But thanks for tuning in. This is the LA Football Podcast. You can find us at LAFB Network on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the above. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to everyone later on in the week.